The sound of breaking glass tore through the calm like lightning. One moment she was laughing over dinner, wine glinting against the city skyline. The next, the world erupted into chaos. The window exploded inward, shards strewn across the marble floor, and masked men poured through the smoke like ghosts of vengeance. Her first instinct was disbelief. This couldn't be happening. Not here. Not with him. She stumbled backward, hands trembling as a man in black aimed a gun at them. But before she could breathe his name, her boyfriend, her kind, composed, gentle businessman, moved. It wasn't panic that flashed in his eyes. It was calculation, cold, precise. He lunged forward, grabbing the nearest attacker's wrist and twisting until bones snapped with a sickening crack. The gun clattered to the floor. Another man charged, only to meet the edge of a knife that appeared. She couldn't even see from where. The man she thought she knew disappeared in the space between heartbeats. She crouched behind the couch, her breath shallow, eyes wide. The warm timbre she once found comforting became terrifying as he barked orders in a voice she'd never heard before. Each syllable carried power, unshakable authority, and a darkness that froze the air. The attackers obeyed nothing, but somehow, they feared him. Gunfire echoed down the corridor. She flinched at every shot, every curse. The scent of cordite burned her throat. Then silence. Heavy, suffocating silence, broken only by the slow echo of his footsteps. When he turned toward her, his shirt streaked crimson, his jaw taut, she saw no trace of the man who had once brushed her hair behind her ear. "Are you hurt?" he asked, voice low, steady. She couldn't answer. All she could see were the bodies on the ground, men groaning, weapons scattered. His hand reached out to her, but she recoiled. Her mind chased reason, spinning wildly through the fragments of trust breaking apart inside her. Then one of the masked intruders coughed blood and whispered something that froze her veins. "Dawn, forgive us." Her gaze snapped back to him. "Dawn." The word echoed through her chest like a blade sliding through glass. His eyes, calm yet unflinching, met hers, and in that instant she understood. She had loved a stranger all along. Before the glass shattered and the world bled into violence, her life had been soft around the edges. Morning sunlight spilled through her apartment window, washing the walls in gold. The city below moved with rhythmic predictability. Coffee carts steaming on corners, taxi horns, laughter caught on the wind. It was a life she had built out of the quiet after heartbreak, stitched together with work, modest dreams, and the hope that love might still find her without chaos. When she met Adrian Russo, it felt like the universe had handed her a reprieve. He was the kind of man who listened intently, whose eyes never wandered when she spoke. A warm, calm presence with a reassuring smile that promised stability. He'd walked into her bookstore on an afternoon brimming with rain, searching for something rare, both in literature and, it seemed, in life. By the time he left, he'd taken her number under the pretense of discussing a book recommendation. But when he called that night, his smooth voice turned the smallest coincidence into something fated. Their first dinner together felt like something from another world. He took her to a private restaurant tucked behind an art gallery, where the staff seemed to anticipate his every word. She noticed it, even then, the way they spoke to him quietly, respectfully, as if aware of invisible boundaries. But she brushed it aside. To her, he was a successful businessman, perhaps a little mysterious, but kind where it counted. When he told her stories about growing up in Sicily, about rebuilding his father's import business from nothing, his humility drew her in. He seemed so sure of himself, but never arrogant. It was intoxicating. Weeks became months. Her life glittered in small, unexpected ways. Black tie events, weekend getaways, spontaneous gifts that made her protest, though her heart quietly swelled. When they walked into a room together, she felt safe and admired. Yet, behind that security lingered something she never named. The heaviness in his gaze when the phone rang after midnight, the untraceable numbers that appeared on his screen, the way his hand always found hers when sirens wailed in the distance. There was a night when she woke to find him standing by the window, shirtless, staring out at the skyline. His expression was unreadable, lined with shadows she couldn't penetrate. The light from the city reflected off his wedding bandless hand as he lit a cigarette he'd sworn he'd quit. When she whispered his name, he turned with that reassuring smile. Smooth, practiced, disarming. "Couldn't sleep," he murmured. Thinking about work, she believed him. Of course she did. Because she wanted to. Because wanting was easier than wondering why the smell of gun oil lingered faintly on one of his tailored jackets, or why the driver who picked them up for dinner carried himself like a soldier instead of a chauffeur. Her friends adored him, though they teased her mercilessly for dating someone so out of her league. He fit into her life seamlessly, as if scripted precisely for her brand of loneliness. And yet, every perfect gesture, every loving look carried the faint edge of choreography, as though behind the romance there pulsed another rhythm, darker and faster. One evening, they danced in her living room. A vinyl record spun softly while rain fell against the glass. He lifted her hand, kissed it, and whispered something in Italian that made her laugh without understanding. Then he pulled her closer, eyes glinting, not with affection, but with something deeper, heavier, unyielding. For a heartbeat, she saw the steel beneath the silk. But when he smiled again, the moment vanished like mist. That was the night he told her he loved her. And as his voice wrapped around the words, she felt them settle deep in her chest, believing they meant forever. She fell asleep against him, ignorant of the storm gathering on the horizon. Because when a heart longs for peace, even the faintest illusion of safety feels like truth. The night shimmered with wealth and champagne. Strings of crystal chandeliers glowed above the ballroom, scattering light across silk gowns and black tuxedos. The event, the city's prestigious Business Alliance charity gala, oozed refinement, its guests speaking softly, laughing quietly, moving carefully, as though even joy had an etiquette here. She had never felt more out of place. Adrian, however, looked born for it. His tailored suit was perfection, midnight blue with a subtle sheen, the fabric catching every glint of gold from the chandeliers. In this glittering world, he wasn't her boyfriend, the warm man who brewed her coffee in the mornings. He was something else entirely. People turned when he entered. Conversations faltered. Heads dipped. It wasn't charm that silenced the room. It was gravity. He carried power the way others carried air. So naturally, so completely, it made others instinctively obey. She tried to dismiss the thought, forcing a smile as he introduced her to people whose names dissolved the moment they met her ears. They were powerful men, beautiful women, all speaking in layered compliments and coded glances. Each one seemed to know something she didn't. When they shook Adrian's hand, they looked past him for a flicker of permission, as though every greeting was a negotiation of unspoken hierarchies. Throughout the evening, she remained close to him, but even then, she felt distance growing between them. There was a rhythm to the room she couldn't hear, a current he moved with effortlessly. He wasn't just admired, he was feared. During dinner, she excused herself to fetch a drink. Near the bar, a man she'd noticed earlier, a bold smile, slicked hair, stepped closer. His cologne was strong, his charm practiced. "You must be new," he said, letting his hand brush her shoulder. "Adrian usually doesn't bring guests this beautiful." Her polite smile froze. The contact was brief, but invasive enough to prick her skin with discomfort. She stepped back, murmuring something about finding her seat, and turned, only to see Adrian standing several feet away, watching. The shift in his expression was barely visible, but she felt it like a drop in temperature. He crossed the room with deceptive calm. The crowd parted subtly, conversations pausing in invisible awareness. When he reached them, his gaze locked on the other man, his lips curving into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Do we have a problem here?" His voice was low, steady, danger wrapped in courtesy. The man's confidence bled away. "Just saying hello, no harm done." Adrian placed a hand on his shoulder, firm, not friendly, then say goodnight instead. The words were soft, but the warning beneath them vibrated in the air. The man's face drained of color. Eyes darted to the exits, then down. He murmured an apology, and left swiftly, disappearing into the crowd of glittering bodies now pretending not to notice. She stood frozen, a glass trembling lightly in her grip. Adrian turned to her, his expression smoothing back into something gentle. "Are you all right?" Yes, she managed, though her voice betrayed her. He just startled me. His hand brushed hers, a small, comforting gesture. But in that brief contact, she sensed something controlled, calculated. When he leaned close to whisper, his tone was a contradiction. Tender words, chilling undertone. Next time, don't speak to men like him. They don't know the rules. The phrase struck her, though she couldn't explain why. There was a peculiar possessiveness in his tone. Not jealousy, but protection, sharpened by something darker. She smiled weakly to diffuse it, telling herself it was nothing, that every man could be protective when provoked. Still, as they returned to their table, whispers followed them like perfume. Guests glanced over their shoulders, eyes flickering with curiosity and caution. She tried to ignore it, focus on the glittering orchestra, on the champagne bubbling like gold. But she couldn't unsee what she'd just witnessed. Later, as he spoke with influential donors and foreign businessmen, she studied him. The man she knew was polished, graceful, softly spoken. Yet now, she saw the meticulous nature of each gesture, the way his eyes never left a room unchecked, the way subordinates waited for his signal before speaking. Every smile was a move, every nod commanded obedience. It wasn't admiration he earned, it was fear, misinterpreting itself as respect. At one point, an elderly woman leaned in to toast him. "Your father would be proud," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "You've built something powerful, Adrian, something that outlasts the old family name." He smiled faintly, but something in his jaw tensed. "Power isn't always worth the inheritance," he replied, and lifted his glass to his lips. The woman nodded, eyes lowering. That night, when the gala ended and they rode home in silence, she watched the city lights flash across his face. He sat beside her in the back of the car, expression unreadable, his phone silent for once. The skyline reflected in his eyes looked almost like a crown. It was then, quietly, invisibly, that fear sprouted inside her heart. Tiny, fragile, but real, because while she didn't yet understand who Adrian Russo truly was, she had begun to sense what he was capable of, and how utterly out of her depth she might be. The sound of gunfire still rang in her mind, sharp and endless, like an alarm that refused to die. The penthouse once cloaked in music and laughter had become a battlefield. Smoke thickened the air, its bitter scent fused with spilled wine and fresh blood. The warmth from the dinner she'd prepared a moment ago still lingered on the plates now shattered across the table. Adrian moved like something untamed, swift, deliberate, terrifyingly precise. He wasn't reacting out of fear, he was orchestrating, every motion deliberate, every strike unfaltering. The grace she once adored in his touch had turned into violence so exact, it felt rehearsed. When one assailant lunged with a blade, Adrian turned, sidestepped, and slammed the man into the dining table until he lay still. The lamp crashed, plunging the room into fractured light. She crawled behind the bar, her knees slipping on marble-streaked red. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. The masked men shouted orders she couldn't decipher, their voices laced with rage. One of them screamed a name, his name, but not the one she knew. Don Russo. The sound cleaved through her panic. Don. The word clung to the smoke like a ghost. She dared to look up through the haze, her eyes catching his silhouette amid the chaos. Immaculate, unflinching, eyes wide open to the violence surrounding him. Her mind raced. Don Mafia. It couldn't be true. Not him. Not the man who read poetry in the morning, who spoke softly of rebuilding, who made her believe peace existed in this city of glass and shadow. But the evidence had surrounded her all along. The guarded, hushed calls, the impossible wealth, the respect from men who looked more soldier than friend. Denial splintered under the weight of truth. A gunshot cracked, closer this time. She gasped as a bullet tore through the wall beside her, raining plaster across her face. Adrian turned instantly, locating the shooter with predator precision. Within seconds, he fired twice. No hesitation, no emotion, just efficiency. The intruder fell, writhing. Another tried to flee, shouting incoherently. Adrian advanced and struck him down before the door could open. "Stay down." His voice boomed across the room. She froze. After what felt like hours compressed into heartbeats, silence descended. The last of the invaders had scattered or fallen. Her ears rang, body trembling. The city lights beyond the broken windows glimmered too softly compared to the carnage inside. Adrian wiped his brow, his face unreadable. When he turned toward her, the light caught his eyes, and for the first time she saw them without disguise. Hard steel under skin, centuries of loyalty and violence buried behind composure. He reached for her and she flinched backward. "Don't," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Don't come near me." His expression fractured, pain flickering behind the cold control. Still, he stopped where he was. "They knew my name," he said quietly, each word careful. "Which means they'll come again. For me, for you. I couldn't tell you before, not without putting you at risk." Her laugh came out jagged. "Tell me what, Adrian? That you're some kind of, what? Crime lord? That everything I believed was a lie?" He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, as if approaching a wounded animal. "Not everything." But as he said it, his gaze fell to the men strewn across the floor, and the contradiction in his words was too stark. She stared at him, the tailored shirt now torn, the dark blood on his wrist, the steady rise and fall of his chest, and all she could see was a stranger wearing the face of the man she loved. She pressed a trembling hand against the chair to stand, her voice tight. "I thought you were a businessman." "I am," he answered, voice thick with irony. "But my business is older than the buildings around us, and far less forgiving." Another rumble of thunder filled the skyline, though there was no storm outside. Just sirens, distant and growing louder. He walked toward the window, scanning the streets below with the vigilance of someone born into danger. "We need to leave, now." She hesitated, her instincts battling each other, fear urging her to run, the remnants of love urging her to trust him one last time. As he turned back, offering his hand, she saw not a lover nor a savior, but a man carved by shadows. "Someone used to blood, betrayal, and power. Who are you?" she whispered. His answer was almost a confession. "Someone who's been trying to live another man's life." Outside, red police lights flickered against the high windows. Inside, her heart fractured between safety and terror. He seized her hand just as the first siren wailed beneath them. She wanted to scream, to pull away, but his grip, gentle yet inescapable, pulled her toward a truth she could never unlearn. The car sped through the city under a shroud of darkness, swallowing every flicker of streetlight in its tinted windows. She sat in stunned silence, her hand locked in Adrian's grip as the cityscape gave way to unfamiliar roads lined with trees that fenced the night like sentries. The hum of the engine was the only sound between them. When they finally stopped at a secluded iron gate, it swung open without a word exchanged. Guards, armed, disciplined, faceless, stood waiting. In the faint glow of the security floodlights, she saw the outlines of a sprawling mansion, its jawline sharp against the forest that embraced it. It was breathtaking, yet its beauty felt wrong, its silence heavier than safety. He guided her out of the car, his touch light but firm. "You'll be safe here," he said. It was meant to comfort, but the words carried the clipped authority of a command rather than comfort. Inside, the house was a museum of excess. Marble floors reflected golden light from ornate chandeliers. Velvet drapes hung like the quiet breath of wealth. The air smelled faintly of sandalwood and power. Every step echoed, every painting watched. Adrian led her to a suite that could have belonged to royalty. Massive windows overlooking gardens, a grand bed draped in silk, a vanity already arranged with her belongings. Her bags, how had they gotten here so fast? She turned sharply to him. "You've done this before." It wasn't a question. His jaw tensed. "Preparedness isn't a crime, Lucia." Her laughter was brittle. "Preparedness? You move me like cargo in the middle of the night." He didn't flinch, though something flickered behind his eyes. "If I hadn't, you'd be the one lying on the floor tonight." Her reply died in her throat. She wanted to argue, to scream, but the memory of the blood-spattered penthouse flashed too vividly. Still, the way he paced the room, the way the shadows bent around him made her skin crawl with unease. Why here? Why not the police? Why not? Because the police can't protect you from men who build them." His tone was final. He turned toward the window, hands clasped behind his back, watching his guards patrol the grounds below. "My enemies know your face now. You step out of this house, they'll see you as leverage. I'm not giving them a reason." She stared at him, realization settling like ice in her blood. "So I'm a prisoner." His gaze shifted to her, the weight of it unbearable. "You're alive because I made you one." For a long moment, silence consumed them. The gilded room, shimmering under candlelight, felt suddenly smaller. The luxury around her mocked her fear, every polished surface reflecting a woman who no longer recognized herself. Days blurred together in uneasy rhythm. Guards stood stationed outside her door. Meals appeared at precise hours, cooked by servants who avoided eye contact. The mansion ran like a machine, efficient, controlled, inhuman. Sometimes, when she walked through the endless halls, she'd hear music from another wing. Low, classical, the melody of ghosts. Adrian worked endlessly, his office door locked most hours. When he emerged, the air around him always felt colder, his silence heavier. He brought her gifts, books, jewelry, even a delicate silk scarf imported from Florence, but each token only mirrored the bars of her invisible cage. One morning, she tried to open the front doors. A guard blocked her with professional calm. "Don's orders, Don, not Adrian." The title hit her harder than expected. That night, she confronted him. He was sitting beside the fireplace, a drink untouched at his side, his expression unreadable. "You think you're protecting me," she said, trembling. "But you're building a prison. For both of us." He looked up slowly. "You don't understand what the world becomes when it knows your name, Lucia. There are no walls strong enough, no guards fast enough. Here, they'll never touch you, but I can't breathe here." Her voice cracked. "You've replaced one kind of fear with another." His eyes softened then, for the first time since that night. He rose, crossing to her, stopping just close enough that she could feel the heat of his presence. "You think this is easy for me?" he whispered. "You think I sleep knowing you hate the air I've given you to survive?" She blinked back tears, shaken by the conflict in his voice, the struggle between guilt and control, love and possession. "You could let me choose," she murmured. "I did." His hand lifted, brushing her cheek before falling away. "You chose me." That truth, the one she hadn't been ready to face, stung more than confinement itself. Because he was right. For all her outrage, all her fear, part of her still clung to the warmth of his protection, the shadow of what they had been before the truth broke it apart. When he left her that night, closing the heavy door behind him, she sat by the window, staring at the gardens rimmed with silver moonlight. Beyond the fence, freedom existed, wild, uncertain, fragile. Inside, everything gleamed but nothing lived. The mansion was a masterpiece of safety. And like all gilded cages, it was built to hold something precious and terrified. Days slipped by inside the mansion, as if time had lost its meaning. Morning light poured through the tall windows, painting gold across the floors. But nothing outside those glass panes felt reachable. The guard's footsteps echoed through the hallways, like the ticking of an invisible clock. Each step a reminder that her freedom had been replaced with surveillance. Lucia had stopped asking to leave. Her protest only drew silence from Adrian, a silence more dangerous than anger. Instead, she spent her hours exploring the mansion's endless rooms. The library with its scent of old paper and secrets, the garden where white roses flourished under too perfect care, the balcony overlooking the world she no longer belonged to. He avoided her at first, throwing himself into work she never saw, meetings held behind closed doors with men who never looked her in the eye. But every evening, she felt his presence before she heard his footsteps, the slow stride down the corridor, the soft click of the lock turning, the weight of power and guilt filling the room before he said a word. One evening, she found him in the library, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. Papers lay scattered across the desk, contracts, reports, names marked in red ink. Every line written there belonged to something she had once tried to deny. The world he ruled with blood instead of law. "You don't stop even for a minute," she said quietly from the doorway. He glanced up. "Stopping gets people killed," People are enemies. His gaze sharpened. There's a difference? Their eyes held, an invisible cord pulling tight between them. She crossed the room slowly, her steps measured, the space between them charged with something dangerous. Neither anger nor forgiveness, but something warmer and crueler. You could walk away, she whispered. You could sell it all, disappear. Why stay in something that destroys everything you touch? He leaned back in his chair, studying her as if she were the first question he hadn't known how to answer. Because walking away doesn't erase what I've done. It just leaves it for someone worse. The honesty in his tone unsettled her more than lies ever could. For the first time, she saw him with the armor stripped away. The exhaustion, the remorse, the constant war beneath his calm exterior. It should have made her hate him more. Instead, it pulled her closer. As she moved beside him, her hand brushed against a photo half hidden beneath a pile of papers. A faded image of a young Adrian standing with an older man who wore the same sharp features. The same steel in his eyes. Your father? She asked softly. Adrian nodded. He built this. I inherited it, and I've been trying to make it something better ever since. By killing people? By keeping worse people from doing worse things. His voice hardened again. There's no clean version of this world, Lucia. The silence between them swelled until it trembled on the edge of something else. Something neither wanted to name. She turned away, crossing to the window where rain lashed softly against the glass. You make it sound like you're saving someone, she murmured. But you're not saving me. You're trapping me here because you love control more than love itself. He was behind her before she heard him rise. His reflection appeared in the glass, close enough that his breath fogged the pain beside her face. You think this is control? His voice dropped to a whisper. You walking into my life was the one thing I never planned for. The confession hit harder than any threat. She turned slowly, meeting his eyes, and saw fire and ache warring in them. The distance between them disappeared. His hand reached for her cheek, tentative at first, waiting for her to pull away, but she didn't. Against every rational thought, every warning her body screamed, she leaned into his touch. His lips found hers with devastating precision, the kind of kiss that burned away logic and left nothing but truth. The world outside ceased to exist. Her hands rose to his shoulders, fingers clutching fabric that smelled like smoke and cedar. The edge of the desk caught her hips as he deepened the kiss, a low sound breaking in his throat, a mixture of longing and self-loathing. When they finally broke apart, both trembling, she pushed him away with more heartbreak than strength. This is wrong, she said, breath unsteady. He didn't deny it. Instead, he looked at her the way a condemned man looks at mercy. Then tell me to stop. But she couldn't. Every word died before reaching her lips. Her heart betrayed her before her morality could defend itself. He turned away first, running a hand through his hair like a man trying to undo his own weakness. You keep seeing the worst of me, he said. And still, you stay. No, she said quietly, lifting her chin. I'm still deciding whether to run or fall again. That night, he didn't return to his room. She heard him pacing in the hall until dawn. When she stepped outside the next morning, the guards averted their eyes, pretending not to notice the storm that lingered between the dawn and the woman who refused to be his prisoner, or his salvation. In the garden, she touched the petals of a white rose and saw a droplet of blood where a thorn had pierced her finger. The metaphor wasn't lost on her. Beauty and pain forever entwined. That was Adrian Russo. That was what she had fallen for. Yet as the first light of day traced her reflection in the glass, she realized the truth with quiet terror. Love wasn't freeing her. It was binding her more tightly than any lock or wall ever could. The morning began with quiet, the kind of deceptive calm that often came before destruction. Lucia wandered through the mansion's library, tracing her fingers along the spines of books she couldn't focus on. For days, she'd been haunted by fragments of whispers in the corridors, glances exchanged between guards, the name of a meeting repeatedly postponed and rescheduled. Something pulsed beneath the surface of Adrian's carefully maintained empire, something she could feel but could not name. When he left early that night, tension hung in the air like a storm about to break. He kissed her forehead before he went, but his eyes betrayed distraction, distance. As soon as the car tires crunched over the gravel driveway, she followed. One of the smaller cars, one without guards, had been left near the garage. The keys were still there, as if someone had wanted her to find them. The road stretched long and dark, her trembling hands clutching the wheel tighter by the mile. She didn't know what she was looking for. Truth, closure, or perhaps the version of him that had once existed before the blood and the lies. But when she reached the edge of the city and saw his black sedan parked near an abandoned warehouse, she knew she'd found something she was never meant to see. Through the cracked window, the night whispered secrets. She crept closer, keeping to the shadows, heart hammering. Inside, under the dim yellow of a single hanging bulb, Adrian stood among men she didn't recognize, men who carried both reverence and dread in their posture. Their words came sharp and low. "She's the reason they came after you," one of them said. "You brought her into this, and now the families see weakness. Emotional leverage, exactly what your father warned you about." Adrian's response cut through the air. She was supposed to be protection. The word struck harder than any bullet. Protection, not love. Not fate, a strategy, he continued, unaware of her presence. Getting close to her kept DeLuca's men off track. "They thought she was leverage, but I made her the decoy to lead them here. And now it's done. They won't touch her again." Every syllable tore something loose inside her. The laughter, the whispered promises, the warmth she had clung to. It all collapsed. She stumbled back, her breath shallow, the edges of her vision dimming. The realization was unbearable. He hadn't saved her by chance. He had used her from the start. Before she could stop herself, the sound escaped her throat, a faint gasp swallowed by the night. It was enough. Adrian's head snapped toward the doorway, his eyes finding the shadow where she stood. "Lucia." He spoke her name softly, urgently. "Wait, don't run." But she already had. Her feet pounded the gravel, heart splintering with every step. The betrayal burned like ice in her veins. She didn't care where the road led, only that it was away from him. But fate wasn't done with her yet. The screech of tires shattered the silence. 2 black SUVs emerged from the trees ahead, headlights cutting through the darkness like knives. She froze, blinded by panic. The doors swung open and men spilled out, guns drawn, faces hidden. They weren't Adrian's. She ran, tearing through the rain that had just begun to fall, the cold slicing through her clothes. A voice shouted behind her, followed by the thud of boots on mud. She ducked behind a broken car, clutching her chest, gasping for air when hands grabbed her arms, dragging her upright. "Where's Russo?" a voice snarled in her ear. Her mind went blank. The man slammed her against the hood, rage in every movement. "He'll come for you. He always comes for what's his." Gunfire cut him off. The shot echoed through the night, followed by another, then another. The men dropped around her, and when she turned, she saw him, Adrian, drenched, breathless, a weapon still smoking in his hand. His eyes met hers, and for the first time, she didn't see strength. She saw desperation. "Get down," he shouted, taking another shot at the attackers. She obeyed on instinct, anger forgotten in the pulse of survival. The gunfire felt endless, the air alive with smoke and terror. When it finally stopped, silence pressed down again, thicker, heavier. Adrian staggered toward her, one hand pressed to his side. Blood seeped through his shirt. Lucia stared at him, torn between wanting to reach for him and the unbearable truth still echoing in her chest. "You planned me," she said, her voice breaking. "You used me." He dropped to his knees before her, exhaustion shutting the arrogance out of his face. "I didn't mean for it to happen like that," he rasped. "It started as something strategic, but you changed everything. You were never supposed to matter. The confession only deepened the wound. Then why save me now? Because I'd rather die than let them touch you." His knees gave out, and she caught him before he hit the ground. His blood was warm on her hands, the smell of iron making her stomach twist. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed faintly, or maybe it was just the roar in her head. "Stay with me, please," she whispered, pressing his wound, desperate despite herself. She hated him, loved him, needed him gone, needed him alive. His fingers brushed her cheek weakly. "Now you know the truth," he said, "but it doesn't change what I feel. tears mixed with the rain streaking her face. "I don't know what's real anymore." He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carried both love and regret. "Neither do I." Then his head fell forward, heavy against her shoulder, and the night around them swallowed everything else. The sirens, the blood, and all the words she'd never get to say. Rain had replaced silence. It drummed against the tall windows of the mansion, filling the void that followed the night of blood and betrayal. Lucia hadn't spoken since they returned. Her hands still smelled faintly of iron, and every time she closed her eyes, she saw him lying in the mud, his blood spilling like confession. The mansion felt colder now. The servants moved soundlessly, the air thicker with secrets. She stayed in her room, curtains drawn, light dimmed to dusk. The world beyond those walls no longer interested her. The man she had trusted, the man she had loved, had built her faith on deception. And yet, even as anger burned inside her, she couldn't exile the memory of his voice when he had whispered her name before losing consciousness. Every few hours, someone knocked. A maid offering food, a security guard reminding her the doctor had left new medications. She refused them all. She ate nothing, slept little, and spoke to no one. Grief fermented into exhaustion. Betrayal fermented into numbness. On the third day, another knock came, firmer than the others. She didn't answer, but the door didn't open until she whispered softly, "What do you want?" Adrian stepped in, pale but alive, his arm bandaged beneath a crisp white shirt. He looked different, drained of arrogance, his usual composure replaced by careful restraint. For the first time since the beginning, he seemed unsure. "I shouldn't be moving," he said quietly, closing the door behind him. "But I couldn't stand the silence between us anymore." Her throat tightened. "You shouldn't be here." "I know." They stood on opposite sides of the room, the space between them crowded with unspoken questions. Rainlight struck his face, cutting harsh shadows across features that once looked so gentle. "I didn't mean for you to find out that way," he began, voice low. "You were never supposed to be part of that world." Her laugh was hollow. "I wasn't supposed to find out that you manipulated me? That I was bait?" He flinched at the word as though it had force. "That isn't what it became." "Don't." Her tone cracked like glass. "You used me to lure your enemies. You lied every single day we were together. What part of that wasn't a trap?" He exhaled slowly, a fragile sound, the part where it stopped being about them. She shook her head, tears welling again. "You don't get to romanticize this, Adrian. You made me believe in something pure, then buried it under blood and control." For a long moment, the only sound was the rain. Then he said, "Do you want to know why I lied?" She didn't answer, but he spoke anyway. "When my mother was still alive, she begged me to build something decent out of what this family was. I tried for years to play their game differently, to be clean in a world that punishes mercy. But the more I walked away, the more they pulled me back. So I built my walls, my systems, my shields. You became one of them. I told myself keeping you close kept you safe." "Safe?" she whispered bitterly. "You don't even know what that word means." "Maybe not. But every time I saw you smile, I thought I could learn." Her composure splintered. She turned toward the window, pressing her palms against the glass. "You broke me," she said almost inaudibly. "And I still care. Do you understand how cruel that is?" He came closer but didn't touch her. "Yes." She closed her eyes, breathing through the weight in her chest. "I hate what you've done to me. I hate that part of me still wants to believe something good exists in you." "You're not wrong to hate me," he said softly, "but I meant every word I ever said to you." She looked at him then, truly looked at him. The man who had once been her peace now standing as her storm. His expression carried no defense, only the exhaustion of a man who'd run out of lies. He finally reached for her hand, slow, deliberate, giving her the chance to pull away. She didn't. His fingers were warm, trembling faintly. "I can't ask for forgiveness," he murmured. "I just need you to know that what I did wasn't love twisted by power. It was fear. And I don't know how to stop being afraid of the world without losing you in it." Her heart ached so deeply it almost numbed her. She could still feel the warmth of his touch, but the chasm between them was too wide to cross tonight. She slipped her hand free, tears streaking her cheeks. "Then maybe that's why you'll always be the Dawn," she said quietly, "because fear is the only thing you let love turn into." He didn't argue. He only bowed his head, turned toward the door, and left without another word. When the door clicked shut, the silence felt heavier than his presence. She sank to the floor, shaking, unsure whether she was mourning the man who betrayed her or the woman who still couldn't stop loving him. The night reeked of smoke before the fire even reached the gates. Lucia woke to shouts in the hallways, the echo of boots against marble. Through the window, she saw headlights slicing through the darkness, convoys closing in from every side. The mansion that had both sheltered and trapped her was no longer a fortress. It was a target. She ran barefoot into the corridor, heart pounding. Guards rushed past her, shouting orders in clipped, fearful tones. The air crackled with tension. Then she saw Adrian at the far end of the hall, strapping on a holster, blood on his forearm, eyes blazing with a calm that frightened her more than panic ever could. "What's happening?" she asked, breath short. "They found us," he said. His voice, steady as ever, carried an undertone of finality. "DeLuca's men, the rest of the families, they hit 2 warehouses already. We're next." Her stomach twisted. "Then let's go. We can leave together." He shook his head. "There's no running. I drew the line the day I tried to make peace in a world that doesn't allow it. This ends tonight." He started down the stairs, giving rapid orders to the guards, positioning them like pieces on a chessboard only he could see. Lucia followed, refusing to hide in silence. Outside, the horizon burned. Gunshots flared in sporadic bursts, muffled by the walls. "Adrian, please," she said, grabbing his arm. "You don't have to fix this with blood." He turned to her, and for once there was raw pain in his expression. "It's already written in it." Before she could reply, the windows shattered as bullets tore through the glass. The air filled with the scream of gunfire. She dove behind the couch as guards returned fire. Adrian pulled her close, shielding her beneath his body while shouting orders. The chandelier above them shattered into glittering shards, spraying over the marble like rain. "Stay down," he roared, then rose to shoot, his movements precise and ruthless, too practiced for anyone who'd ever known peace. She watched him through the chaos, the sharp angles of his body, the firelight dancing in his eyes. The beast she had glimpsed the night of the first attack fully unleashed. And still, beneath the danger, there was something heartbreakingly human in the way he looked at her each time he reloaded. A silent plea that she hold on just a little longer. Minutes, or maybe hours, passed before silence fell, broken only by crackling fire and the groans of injured men. The air was thick with smoke. Adrian wiped blood from his jaw, his gaze scanning the room for movement. "Are you hurt?" he asked, kneeling beside her. She shook her head, trembling. "Why do you always ask that when you're the one bleeding?" He gave a bitter smile. "Because I know I can survive it." Then a flash, movement at the double doors. The sound of a safety being clicked off. "Adrian!" she screamed. But he turned too late. A man emerged from the shadows, DeLuca's right hand, the one who had haunted every whispered warning. His gun was already aimed. Adrian fired first, but missed. The man shot back, the bullet tearing through Adrian's shoulder. He fell backward, clutching his arm, blood spreading fast. Something inside Lucia snapped. In that moment, love outweighed fear. She lunged for the fallen weapon beside Adrian, gripping it with shaking hands. The man turned toward her, sneering. "Stay down, sweetheart. This doesn't concern you." But it did. Every lie, every wound, every choice that had trapped her in this world. It all converged into this heartbeat. Her hand steadied. She exhaled, the cold clarity of adrenaline washing through her. The first shot went wide. The second hit its mark. The man staggered, shock freezing across his face before he crumpled to the floor. For a moment, everything was still. Then the world crashed back into motion. Shouts, footsteps, the growing roar of fire as it climbed the walls. Lucia dropped the gun, shaking. Adrian caught her wrist, his voice rough with disbelief. What have you done?" "What I had to," she whispered. "You'd be dead if I hadn't." His blood-soaked hand rose to her cheek, trembling. "You shouldn't have had to carry that." "I already have," she said, meeting his eyes. "Since the first moment I found out who you are." She helped him to his feet, supporting him as he stumbled toward the grand staircase. Flames licked up the railing, smoke curling thick in the air. Guards ushered them out, shouting for backup. But it was clear the estate wouldn't last. At the door, Adrian paused, turning back one last time to the life he had built. The empire built on legacy, loyalty, and loss. His expression was neither grief nor regret, just weary acceptance. "It's over," she said softly. He nodded. "Not yet." They made it to the courtyard, where the rain had begun to fall, hissing as it met the fire. He collapsed against her, the strength draining from him. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. She pressed her hands against his wound again, frantic. "Adrian, stay with me." His voice was faint but steady. "When I met you, I thought I could rewrite the pages of my own damnation. I was wrong. You didn't save me, Lucia. You freed me from pretending I could be anyone else." She choked back tears. "Don't. You're not dying here." He smiled then, a ghost of the man she had first fallen for, the businessman who quoted poets and made her believe in constellations over city lights. "If this is the price, I'll pay it." "No," she growled, refusing the finality in his tone. "If you're going down, then I am too." The sound of engines filled the air again. More vehicles, allies this time, his remaining men arriving through the smoke. Lucia looked up, shouting orders without realizing it, her voice cutting through the chaos like command. They lifted Adrian into a waiting car. As it sped away from the crumbling mansion, she held his hand, refusing to release it. The rain turned the dirt to red mud, the remnants of power dissolving into ruin. Behind them, the estate burned, lighting the night like a funeral pyre. Adrian turned his head weakly, eyes locking onto hers. "You could have run. Why didn't you?" She brushed wet hair from his face, her tears indistinguishable from the rain. "Because I wasn't going to let you die without knowing I chose you. Every broken part." His breath hitched, and in the faintest whisper he answered, "Then let this be the vow." "If I live for you." She didn't respond. She just held him tighter as the car vanished into the smoke and siren-lit dark, the dawn rising red behind them like the beginning of something both doomed and eternal. The fire had devoured what remained of the mansion by dawn. Smoke curled up from the ruins like a final prayer, whispered into a sky that had watched too much blood fall. What survived was quieter. A few cars, a few men, the skeleton of an empire standing at the edge of collapse. Lucia sat at Adrian's bedside in a safe house miles from the city, watching the pale light crawl across his face. The doctors had done what they could. The bullet hadn't touched his heart, but it had come close enough to humble him. For the first time since she had met him, Adrian Russo looked utterly human. No longer the Don, no longer untouchable. Just a man stripped down to bone and breath. He stirred, a low groan escaping him, his hand twitching toward hers. When his eyes finally opened, she saw recognition flicker there, followed by disbelief. "You're still here," he rasped. She smiled faintly, exhaustion lining her features. "I thought I'd make sure you didn't die before I decided whether to leave." He tried to laugh, but it turned into a weak cough. "That sounds fair." Silence grew between them, not uncomfortable, but full of everything that didn't need to be said. The chaos was over. In its wake, there was no grand speech, no cinematic absolution. Just two people sitting at the edge of something that could break or heal, depending on whether either of them was brave enough to let it. Later, when he had regained a little strength, he asked her to walk with him. They stepped into the courtyard, the morning air sharp with the scent of ash and dew. The sky was washed clean, almost cruelly blue. Around them, his men worked in quiet order, rebuilding, relocating, pretending not to stare at the man who had nearly lost everything. "This ends with me," Adrian said finally, his voice softer than she'd ever heard it. I've spent my whole life defending a legacy that destroyed everyone who tried to live up to it. My father believed power kept us alive, but all it did was bury us slower." Lucia studied him, unsure what to say. He had always been a contradiction. Intelligence hidden behind violence, tenderness laced with control. Now he looked older, the weight of consequence marked in every line of his face. "What happens now?" she asked. He turned to her, the sunlight catching the scar at his temple. "Now I set them free. The men, the business, everything. Whatever remains, it won't bear my name. I'll vanish, if that's what it takes to stop the cycle." "And me?" she asked quietly. His eyes softened, but there was sorrow behind them. "You're free too. No guards, no locked doors. You can go anywhere, be anyone. You don't owe me a thing." The word struck her harder than she expected. Freedom, what she had once begged for, now felt like exile. She folded her arms, trying to steady herself. "You really think walking away fixes what's broken?" "It doesn't," he said. "But maybe it keeps us from breaking more." They stood in silence, listening to the wind rustle through the dead leaves. For a long time, neither moved. Then she stepped closer, her voice low, fragile. "You think I stayed because I'm trapped. But I stayed because I wanted to see if the man I loved was still behind all this ruin." He turned toward her fully then, his composure faltering. "And did you?" She nodded slowly. "I think I just did." Something unspoken passed between them, tender but unbearably sad. His hand brushed her cheek, hesitant, reverent, uncertain whether he deserved to touch her at all. She didn't pull away. "Lucia," he said softly, her name breaking in his voice. "Every time I tried to protect you, I became the thing you needed saving from. If staying means you forgive me, don't. I don't want forgiveness." "Good," she said, eyes glistening. "Because I'm not offering it. Not yet." The faintest smile ghosted his lips. "Then what are we now?" "Whatever comes after survival," she replied. "Something quieter, something real." They stood together until the sun climbed higher, warming the stone beneath their feet. Around them, the last remnants of his shadow empire began to fade. Trucks rolling out, men saying nothing but meaning everything in their brief nods of respect. When they went back inside, Adrian paused at the threshold and looked over his shoulder at the horizon. He didn't see the dawn's world anymore. Just smoke, ruin, and the faint shape of redemption in the distance. Lucia reached for his hand, threading her fingers through his. For the first time, he didn't hesitate. The silence that followed wasn't heavy this time. It was promise, one built not on power, but on the fragile truth that they had both bled enough for a lifetime. A week passed in rare, fragile quiet. The world outside seemed softer somehow. The news spoke of ceasefires, dissolving alliances, reorganized territories. The Russo Empire had thinned, not vanished, but changed. Its violent heartbeat slowed to something steadier. In the safe house by the coast, where waves struck rhythm against cliffs, Lucia almost began to believe peace could last. Adrian healed slowly. Each day he walked further down the pale stone path. Each evening returned to her side with a quietness that felt like atonement. The man who had once commanded a city now tended the garden behind their borrowed home. Sometimes he smiled, though it was never without shadow. One evening, as the sea burned gold beneath the setting sun, Lucia emerged from the house to find him staring at the horizon, cigarette unlit between his fingers. "You're forgetting something," she said gently. Removing it from his hand, he gave a low laugh. "Old habits die hard. I'm starting to think that's true for everything about you." He turned toward her, eyes softer than she remembered. "Maybe someday I'll prove otherwise." The breeze carried the scent of salt and coming rain. For the first time, she believed him, or wanted to. This quiet life, The simplicity of their days was more terrifying in its honesty than the chaos they'd survived. It left room for hope, and with hope came the threat of loss. That night, they sat together in silence, their chairs turned toward the sea. She rested her head on his shoulder and whispered, "If peace is real, what do we do with it?" He hesitated. "Learn how to live in it before it's taken again." The words chilled her, though his tone was gentle. Somewhere deep down, she feared he was right. And when the first raindrops began to fall, she thought she felt something shift, as though the calm they'd built was only an illusion, a pause in a life that refused to stop demanding something from them. They went inside as thunder rolled in the distance. She poured them both tea, her fingers brushing his in quiet comfort. The heater hummed softly. She almost smiled. Then the phone rang. The sound cut through the calm, sharp, and unexpected in the cozy silence of the room. Both of them froze. For a moment, neither moved, the shrill tone echoing off the tiled walls. Lucia set her cup down slowly. "No one knows this number." He rose, expression hardening, old instincts flickering back like the first spark of a dormant fire. The second ring was louder, faster, urgent. He hesitated before picking up the receiver. "Russo," no voice came, just static. Then, faintly, a man's low chuckle, distorted as if from another world. "Did you think legacy dies so easily?" the voice murmured. Adrian's muscles went rigid. "Who is this?" A pause, more static. Then, clearly, too clearly. "Tell your girl we found her name carved on an old list. Some debts travel farther than blood." The line went dead. Lucia stared at him, confusion turning into dread. "What did they say?" He didn't answer immediately. His eyes darted toward her, dark with something she hadn't seen since the night of the attack. The look of a predator realizing the hunt had never truly stopped. "Pack your things," he said. Voice low, "Adrian." Her heart stuttered. "Who was it?" He rubbed his temples, as if trying to erase the voice still echoing in his mind. "Someone who shouldn't exist anymore." "That's not an answer. It's the only one you need right now." He met her gaze, and she saw in it everything he wasn't saying. Fear for her, fury at himself, the weight of old ghosts clawing their way back from the dead. Lightning flashed beyond the window, illuminating the room in fractured white. Her reflection in the glass looked like a stranger's. Same face, same trembling hands, but the world behind her was shifting again. He crossed the room to her, gripping her shoulders. "Listen to me. Whatever happens next, you do exactly what I tell you. No arguments," her voice trembled. "You said it was over." "I lied," he whispered. "I wanted it to be." Outside the storm broke, thunder rolling like distant artillery. They stood there together, motionless, listening to the rain hammer against the roof while the world they'd tried to rebuild began to unravel. Finally, she reached for his hand. It was shaking. So was hers. Their fingers interlocked, not out of comfort, but recognition of the promise neither of them could escape. "Whoever they are," she said softly. Her jaw set. "They'll come through me first." He looked at her, pride and fear colliding in his eyes. "That's what scares me." The power flickered. The phone rang again. Once, twice, before the silence returned, denser than before. Lucia squeezed his hand, her pulse hammering against his skin. For a long moment, they just breathed together, the storm crackling beyond the windows. Then slowly, she turned toward him, her voice a whisper drenched in dread and defiance. "Tell me the truth, Adrian. Who did you forget to bury?" Thunder answered in his silence. And as lightning painted their faces white against the dark, his fingers tightened around hers, a vow renewed, not spoken, but known. The war wasn't over. It had simply begun again.